You've seen it happen. Maybe you've done it yourself. A room, a deal on the table, or a job, or a moment that matters. Someone asks a question, and then they stop talking, and the silence just sits there, heavy, awkward, and you feel it. That pull in your chest to fill the gap, to explain, to add one more sentence, to prove you belong in that room. So you keep talking, and somewhere in that extra minute, you say the one thing you shouldn't have. You reveal the number you meant to hold back. You admit the doubt. You hand the other person the exact piece of information they needed, and you gave it away for free, just to escape a few seconds of quiet. Here's the part nobody tells you. The silence was the test, and the person who stayed quiet was never uncomfortable at all. They were watching you fail it. Most people believe power comes from what you say, the sharp comeback, the clever argument, the impressive amount you know. So they talk, they over-explain, they fill every gap, and every word makes them a little smaller, a little more common, a little easier to read. And they never feel it happening. Welcome to law number 4. Always say less than necessary, because under the polite surface of every conversation is a simple truth. The more you say, the more you give away. Your words are not free. Once they leave your mouth, you cannot take them back, and anyone paying attention can use them. The people who understand this don't win arguments. They let you lose them for yourself, while they sit there saying almost nothing, looking more powerful by the second. By the end of this, you'll understand why silence unsettles people at a level they can't control. You'll meet 3 figures from history who lived and died by this law, and you'll know exactly when to use it, and the one situation where staying silent will quietly destroy you instead. Let's start with a man who could not stop asserting himself. It cost him his city. According to the old Roman story, there was a general named Gnaeus Marcius. He was a warrior of the highest order. In the war against a neighboring people called the Volsci, he fought with such reckless courage at the siege of the city of Corioli that Rome gave him a new name to carry for the rest of his life: Coriolanus. On the battlefield, he was untouchable. Time and again, the tradition says, his sword saved the city. If deeds alone decided power, he would have ruled Rome. But Coriolanus had a flaw, and it lived in his mouth. He held the common people of Rome in open contempt, and he could not keep that contempt to himself. He said it, loudly, constantly. When a famine struck the city and the people were starving, he stood up and argued that grain should be withheld from them unless they surrendered the political rights they had just won. He didn't soften it. He didn't hold his tongue and wait. He spoke every proud, cutting thought exactly as it came to him, and the people heard all of it. The very crowds his courage had once protected turned on him. His words gave his enemies everything they needed. He was dragged into a trial, condemned, and banished from the city he had bled for. A hero, exiled, not for losing a battle, but for winning every argument out loud. And here's the turn the story is remembered for. In his rage, Coriolanus walked straight to the Volsci, the same enemy he had spent his life fighting, disguised himself, and offered them the one thing they wanted: a Roman general who knew exactly how to break Rome. They took him in. He led their army back against the city that raised him, burning through the towns around it, and marched right up to the walls. Rome, in a panic, sent its finest men out to beg him for terms. He refused them all. Words could not move him now. In the end, only one thing turned him back: his own mother and his wife, sent out from the city to plead with him face to face. He spared Rome, and the tradition says the Volsci never forgave him for it, and he died among the very enemies he had joined. That is the whole lesson burned into a single life. His deeds made him a hero, his mouth made him an exile, and then a traitor, and then a dead man. He had power, real, earned power, and he talked it all away, one honest, arrogant sentence at a time. He could not say less than necessary, so history ended up saying everything for him. Now watch the opposite. Watch a man who ruled with almost no words at all. Move forward 2,000 years to the court of King Louis XIV of France, the Sun King, the most powerful monarch in Europe. His court was a machine built for talk. When his ministers had a difficult matter to settle, they would debate it among themselves, then choose 2 men to argue the opposing sides in front of the king. And Louis would sit there and listen. That was it. He listened. An unreadable look on his face. giving nothing away. And when both sides had finished and turned to him for his answer, for the decision they had been sweating over, the king would look at them and say 3 words, "I shall see." Then he would walk away. That was the entire response. No debate, no reasoning, no hint of which way he leaned. The ministers would leave that room knowing nothing more than when they walked in. They'd hear nothing else on the matter, until weeks later, when the king simply acted and they saw his decision in the results. Louis was not born this way. In his youth, he loved conversation, loved rhetoric, and long discussion. The silence was a discipline he imposed on himself deliberately because he understood what it did to the people around him. Think about what those 3 words accomplished. No one knew where the king stood, so no one could tell him what he wanted to hear, because nobody knew what that was. No one could flatter him into a decision or deceive him with a rehearsed case. And because his silence made them so nervous, they talked more, filling the emptiness, revealing the very things he could later use. His quiet turned every man in the room into an open book, while the king himself stayed sealed shut. He didn't dominate that court by out-arguing anyone. He owned it by refusing to show his hand. 3 words and an entire kingdom leaned in to guess what he meant. But maybe a king is too far from your life. So let's bring this into the modern world, to a man who became president almost by accident and stayed powerful by keeping his mouth closed. Calvin Coolidge was the 30th president of the United States, and his own country nicknamed him Silent Cal. He earned it. Before he was president, he was vice president under Warren Harding, a role that back then meant almost nothing. But Coolidge did something unusual. He attended every cabinet meeting, and unless someone asked him a direct question, he never opened his mouth. He just sat there, meeting after meeting, absorbing every word, every detail, every weakness in the room, while giving away nothing of his own. He said it plainly himself. "I have never been hurt by what I have not said." Another time, "If you don't say anything, you won't be called on to repeat it." And the one that gets to the heart of this law, no man ever listened himself out of a job. He once explained to the financier Bernard Baruch why he sat silently through meeting after meeting. Many times, he said, he'd give people only a yes or a no. Even that was too much, because even that would wind them up for 20 more minutes. There's a famous story, and it may be legend, because Coolidge himself denied it, that a woman at a dinner leaned over and told him she'd bet she could get more than 2 words out of him. He looked at her and said, "You lose." True or not, the country believed it, because it fit the man exactly. And here's what most people miss. His silence didn't make him weak or forgettable. It made him trusted. He came into office right after a wave of political scandals, and his quiet, careful, unshakable manner read as steadiness, as integrity. People projected calm and wisdom onto a man who simply refused to say too much. He was enormously popular, and when he decided not to seek another term, he announced it in a single laconic line and let the world chew on it. While everyone around him filled the air with noise, Coolidge listened. And the less he said, the larger he seemed. He turned saying nothing into a reputation, and a reputation into power. So why does this work? Why do 3 words from a king, or a shrug from a quiet man, land harder than a brilliant speech? Because of something wired deep in human beings. We cannot stand uncertainty. When you go silent, you create a vacuum, and people rush to fill it. They talk to ease their own discomfort, and in that rush, they reveal themselves. Their fears, their real number, their hand. You didn't pull it out of them. Your silence did. And there's a second thing. When you don't react, people project onto you. They assume the silence is hiding depth, judgment, something they can't see. Say too much and you become a known, ordinary, judgeable thing. Say little and you stay undefined. And the human mind fills, undefined, with more powerful than me. Ambiguity reads as control. You can watch this happen in the modern world too. Andy Warhol, one of the most famous artists of the 20th century, built an entire public persona out of saying almost nothing. In interviews, he'd hide behind dark glasses and answer real questions with a flat, "I don't know," or "yes," or It just happened. He deliberately kept himself blank and cryptic. And what did the world do? It leaned in. Critics and journalists spent years digging for the hidden genius behind those empty answers, writing essay after essay, trying to decode a man who simply refused to explain himself. His silence didn't make people think he was shallow. It made them assume he was deep. The less he gave them, the harder they worked to find meaning in it, and the bigger he became. There's also the simplest reason of all. The more words you put into the world, the more chances you have to say something foolish, something that can be turned against you later. Every sentence is a small bet, and most people bet far too often. Fewer words, fewer mistakes. You never have to walk back the thing you didn't say. Silence has never once betrayed anyone, but a loose sentence has ended careers, friendships, and empires. So how do you actually put this to work? Not as a personality, but as a tool you pick up on purpose. First, after you ask for something that matters, a raise, a price, a favor, stop talking, state it, then let the silence sit. The pressure you feel is the exact pressure the other person feels. Whoever speaks first usually loses ground. Let it be them. Second, say one fewer sentence than you want to. Cut the justification you were about to add. That extra sentence is almost always where you give yourself away. Third, in conflict, pause before you respond. A beat of silence reads as control and confidence. Rushing to answer reads as fear. Fourth, when you don't want to commit, keep your answer open and vague. I'll think about it. We'll see. You stay free and they stay guessing. Fifth, as a rule, listen more than you speak. Let the other person be the open book. Here's how that looks in real life. Say you're asking for a raise. The weak version is what most people do. They name a number and then keep going. I was hoping for maybe a little more if that's possible, because I've been here a while and I know budgets are tight. So whatever works. Every one of those extra words is you negotiating against yourself, handing over your doubt before the other person has said a thing. The strong version is one sentence. Based on my results this year, I'm looking for X. And then you close your mouth. You let it hang. The silence becomes their problem to solve, not yours. And more often than you'd think, they fill it by moving toward you, not away. Where does this belong? In negotiations over money, salary, or a deal? In high-stakes rooms where you only get one shot? In any situation with someone you don't yet trust or fully understand? And in heated moments, because words spoken in anger can never be pulled back, and the person who stays quiet in a fight is almost always the one who ends up looking in control of it. But here's where you have to be honest, because this law has a dark side, and using it in the wrong place will cost you more than talking ever could. Silence has a price. Held too long or aimed at the wrong people, it stops reading as power and starts reading as cold, arrogant, evasive, like a man with something to hide. And that's exactly what it becomes in the places that run on trust. Do not use this on the people closest to you. In a marriage, a friendship, a real partnership, withholding your words isn't strategy, it's stonewalling. It starves the connection. The people who love you don't need a sphinx. They need to hear from you. Aim this law at them, and you'll win the mystery and lose the relationship. Do not use it on a team that depends on you. A leader who goes silent doesn't seem powerful to his own people. He creates a vacuum, and a nervous team fills that vacuum with rumor and worst-case fear. In a crisis, when people need reassurance and direction, silence isn't strength, it's abandonment. And watch for the moments when saying nothing makes you look guilty. Sometimes the situation demands a clear, plain answer, and refusing to give one only confirms the worst suspicion. There, the stronger move is to speak, directly and simply. Picture how it actually fails. A new manager decides silence equals authority, so he keeps his cards close and answers his team in clipped, vague half-sentences. He thinks he looks powerful, but his people don't see a mastermind. They see a black box. They can't tell if they're doing well or about to be fired. So they stop taking risks. They start guessing. The quiet ones drift. The anxious ones spiral. And the rumor mill runs the department instead of him. He used the right tool in exactly the wrong room, and his silence didn't build power. It built fear and distance, and eventually his best people left. The warning signs that you've overused it are quiet but real. People stop bringing you information. They start reading you as cold or arrogant. Relationships cool for no reason you can name. Conversations with you get shorter and more careful. And if that's already happening, the repair isn't more silence, it's the opposite. Deliberate warmth. Over-communicate on purpose for a while. Tell people what you're thinking before they have to guess. Let them back in. The same quiet that makes you powerful with a rival will slowly starve the people who are actually on your side. Because remember what the law actually says. Say less than necessary, not say nothing. It's a scalpel, not a wall. The whole skill is knowing what's necessary in the moment and then cutting just below it. Coriolanus said far too much and lost a city. But a leader who says nothing to the people who need him loses them just as completely. The power is in the aim, not the silence itself. So understand where this leaves you. You are already in this game, whether you signed up for it or not. Every conversation you have, someone is reading you by your words, measuring you, learning you, deciding how much you're worth to them. The only question is whether you're handing yourself over for free or choosing deliberately what you let them see. Most people never choose. They talk to fill the silence, and they wonder why they always feel one step behind. Now you know the move they never learned. So tell me in the comments, which one hit hardest? The general who talked himself into exile, the king who ruled a nation with 2 words, or the president who won a country's trust by listening? And be honest, where in your own life have you talked yourself out of something you actually wanted? I read the replies. If this changed how you'll walk into your next hard conversation, subscribe and turn on notifications. This is the kind of thing we do here. Once your words leave your mouth, they belong to everyone but you. So say less, mean more, and let the silence do the work.